Welcome back to the podcast. This is the Equally Yoked Show. Welcome back again. As I just mentioned, YouTube Punk, welcome back. Good to have you first in the chat, man. This is going to be a wild one. I think you're going to get a nice little surprise at the end. We'll talk about God. We'll debate about some things. I think this is going to be great. And we'll just go through some of the stuff. So I wanted to get started with some of this FBI stuff with Kash Patel. And apparently this verbal nuke was dropped. And you see the Platier article in the New York Times? No, I have not. I will most certainly check that out. Send me a, what did I win? Man, I wish I could give you something. I wish I could give you a nice, I don't know, some kind of reward for being the first. You're awesome, man. Thanks for being here as the first one to drop in the chat. That's so great, man. Glad to have you here, and quite frankly, not glad to not have you at Justin's live stream, even though he's not live right now. Anyway, otherwise, I'll check that out. I'll take a look at that. Let me just do a little bit of a research on that and see exactly where we're going with this Platier, right? NY Times. All right, I'll take a look at that, and then we'll go from there. Sarai, thank you for joining. Hello. Mr. Sanchez, welcome back, friend. Let's get started on this video here. So before I get started, some of the things that we're going to be touching up on, as you've seen from the title, maybe you've seen it, maybe you didn't. We're going to be talking about some of the great Trump wins. We'll get into those very soon. Some things that are good for the American economy, some things that are going to really just encourage us. I hope so. If not, well, I don't know what to tell you. But otherwise, we're going to be looking at some FBI stuff. And then we're going to be looking at some stuff with regards to the Bible. Where was God, or what was he doing prior to Genesis 1? We're going to be looking at a few other things as well. Some things with regards to Biden. And so let's go ahead and get started.
Capitol, we're privileged to have the ranking member, the vice chair of the full committee with us today. Senator Murray, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair Moran. It's good to work with you and ranking member Van Hollen in this new position. So look forward to both of you and the work on this committee. You know, the FBI does really crucial work to keep our nation safe, whether it's stopping criminal organizations or domestic terrorists, protects our nation's secrets, it prevents cyber attacks, keeps our children safe from harm, and a lot more. So this is really sober work with extremely high stakes. And I'm concerned that instead of focusing on the incredibly important mandate to keep Americans safe and to help impartially enforce our laws under your leadership, Director Patel, the FBI has been weaponized to go after Americans who disagree with the president. FBI resources have been diverted away from combating terrorism to focusing on immigration requests. And all of this, the diverted missions, the fewer resources, fewer agents, heightened politicization, is happening now under your watch, and it is.
I've recently come.
Wow, what a kill. Basically, she's going to start off with this whole nonsense of you're not doing what we basically put you in office for the FBI. And there's going to be some heated exchange here. And I think this is going to be beneficial for you guys to see exactly where this FBI, where Kash Patel is going.
Americans less safe. Now, let me just start with the budget. As Ranking Member Van Hollen noted earlier, this hearing is being held without the FBI's fiscal year 2025 spend plan and a full budget request for fiscal year 2026. The spend plan is required by law. It was due to Congress over a week ago. We have not yet seen it. That is really absurd. The FBI is our nation's leading law enforcement agency, a budget of $10.7 billion. It is critical that we understand how you are spending taxpayer dollars. So, Director Patel, when should we expect this FY25 spend plan for the FBI? Have you seen it? Have you reviewed it? When will we get it?
I'll get you an answer, ma'am. I don't have a timeline on that.
It was due last week by law.
I understand.
And your answer is you just understand. You're not going to follow the law?
My answer is that I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this and get you the budget that you are required to have.
And you have no timeline?
No.
At least he's straight up.
Well, we also need a full budget request, not a single paragraph full of wild talking points that we saw with the skinny budget proposal. We're now having a budget hearing without a budget request. So, Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it from my interagency partners and get it approved.
6 months from now?
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not
Well,
going to
how
make up
do
a timeline.
we as Congress do our budget and our work without that request and without the spend plan?
Well, ma'am, I'm here. I'm
don't
doing the
care.
best I can. I can't make up answers. I'm going to commit to you to work on getting you the information you need.
That is insufficient and deeply disturbing. No response?
I've given my response.
Well, the FBI is already down 1,900 employees since 2023 as a direct result of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And under the Trump administration, FBI agents, analysts, linguists, cyber experts, and scientists are being asked to do a lot more in order to keep us safe. Director Patel, we all know that budget cuts will reduce the FBI's ability to counter threats of terrorism, and it will hinder its ability to keep pace with firearm background checks and shutter operations that combat violent crime, drugs, gangs, and transnational organized crime. Now, I understand that you told our House colleagues yesterday.
Now, I wanted to comment before we continue on with the video because let me just remind you of the Biden era FBI operations that were running during his tenure of presidency. The thing is, you say as soon as the IRS passes their audit. That's so funny. The thing is, the FBI was the way they were operating their, the way that they had their employees operating was they were able to basically come in about once a month. And so what they would do, and this is all reported, this is all documented, you can find this stuff. Chat, feel free to research this and correct me if I'm wrong, but most certainly you'll find the truth of the fact of the matter is that they were able to work from home. And what they were able to do with having to come in the office once a month, they would come in at the end of the month, one day, and at the beginning of the month, one day. And that was it. And a lot of these federal investigation workers, they essentially took on contracting jobs, did stuff while the American taxpayer was paying them to do their job at the FBI. So the stuff that we're seeing from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who recently had been sworn in, and we're seeing such a huge, tremendous shift happening within the FBI. Stuff that we haven't seen in over 4 years. We're seeing some stuff. We're looking into the Epstein files. I saw a clip, which I actually should have pulled it up. All right, I didn't see a clip, but they're talking about the fact that there is footage that they're reviewing of the death of Epstein.
That you don't want to reduce the FBI workforce, meaning that you disagree with what President Trump is proposing?
No, I agree that we can sustain the mission with the proposed budget, and I agree with the budget. And as I said yesterday, I believe that what I said was I can do more with more. And I gave examples of what more we could do if we were given more.
Well, it's different than what you told the House yesterday. So what are you communicating to the President and the White House about what you need and what? And again, we don't have a budget request from you, so I'm not sure what you're asking us for.
I'm not asking you for anything at this time.
You can operate without a budget?
I never said that.
Well, this is unprecedented. Okay, well, let me just go to another topic since you're not going to answer that. The FBI partners with state, local, and tribal law enforcement organizations. They provide critical intelligence and operational capabilities to combat violent crime and gangs and terrorist threats, fentanyl trafficking, challenges that our local communities really can't face alone. I'm going to give you an example. A few years ago, the Southeast Washington Safe Streets FBI Task Force worked with our Benton County and Franklin County Sheriff's Office, multiple Tri-Cities Police Departments, and the State Corrections Department to carry out one of the largest ever drug seizures in the region's history. Now we've got an administration already cutting more than $800 million in assistance in 2025 to local law enforcement organizations while proposing a $500 million cut for the FBI. Dr. Patel, can you explain to this committee how cutting resources for our local law enforcement partner agencies the FBI relies on to help your bureau keep safe? How do you expect the FBI and local law enforcement to do more without those significant resources they need?
The FBI will continue to do what it does, which is work with embedded state and local law enforcement officers in our Joint Terrorism Task Force, in our Safe Streets Task Force, in our gang task forces. Those are a priority. Those billets have been maintained. Those billets have not been reduced. And with my reorientation, reprogramming that we've notified Congress to, you will see an augmentation in the field in every single state in this country.
Well, again, we need to see the numbers and we need to see that budget from you. Let me ask you about the NICS system. The FBI is really on the front lines of keeping guns out of the hands of very dangerous criminals. The NICS serves a really critical role in enhancing national security and public safety by conducting background checks. You know this. They are supported by the vast majority.
At Renew Therapy, every
So as we can see, some of the things, this is going to be an interesting story to follow because we're going to be looking at and following closely what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are brewing up within the FBI. I could tell a lot of you disagree with what's going on, and that's okay. Only time will tell whether he is a good lemon or a bad lemon. Funny stuff that I've been going through lately as of within my own personal life within regards to bad lemons, bad cars, otherwise. Something that has been brewing up also on the other front is with this Biden case, how essentially more scandals surrounding the alleged cover-up of former President Biden's decline, his mental decline, that is. And this is Ron Paul on the matter. You say, Kash violated the law by not having his budget ready. Look, he said he's following the law. What exactly does he mean by that? I guess only time will tell. Obviously, breaking the law, not a good thing. What does it mean for an FBI director to break the law? Has it been done in the past? To what extent has it been done in the past? Many laws have been broken under the previous FBI director, who was a complete, I won't even say the word, but terrible way of running the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Let's take a look at what Ron Paul has to say with regards to Biden.
Senator, I am very interested in your thoughts on this. You are a strict constitutionalist. If you usurp the Article 2 powers of a president, to me, that is a massive scandal. Your thoughts?
You know, this was not a well-kept secret in Washington. The scuttlebutt was they were calling Jill Biden Mrs. Wilson. They called her Mrs. Wilson because Woodrow Wilson suffered a debilitating stroke, in 1917, 1918, and basically she ran the country. So it's not even the first time this kind of thing has happened. It is an abomination. It is awful what has happened. I do think we will get to the truth of this, though, because there actually
some of
has
this
to be a
refers also
person who
to
ran
the
auto
pen.
Someone had to do it. And I think that if we find that person, the next question is, who asked you to do that? And if that chain doesn't lead up to the president, I think that you will have a catastrophe, and they will have a catastrophe that they can't even contain. Now, there's a possibility as you ask them, they finally say, well, so-and-so told me to do it, so-and-so told me to do it, and then the president will in writing say, I told them to do it. I think it'll be very difficult to have the president actually come and testify. I think generally it will be very difficult to have doctors testify because of patient privacy. I think it will be very difficult to have family members unless they were running the auto pen. If Jill Biden was running the auto pen, you can make her testify. Anything beyond that, I think it'll be difficult to ever come in.
But even if Joe Biden himself came in, he probably would just lie, in my view. He wouldn't want this to be a stain on his so-called legacy. And we now have heard some of her interview and her report. I mean, everything that he wrote in that report. Now we know why they didn't want to release the audio of the.
If you guys
the
haven't seen that
transcript of what
Ben
happened here,
Hur
because
or the
Joe
Robert
was
Hur
that
report,
bad.
with some of the audio clips that have been played and circulated within the media, I mean, you can clearly see his mental decline. Do any of you agree or disagree with the fact that he was on a serious mental decline? Because this prostate cancer that has showed up as of recent was not something that was recent, right? This has already progressed quite substantially within his body. So this is something that had been known for quite some time. There was a moment where he was rambling on during a press conference about this cancer, and people thought that they just nobody covered it.
But imagine if he went before a Senate committee or a House committee, he's not going to be up to the task. Would you agree?
You say, do you think the law allows you to defend yourself after breaking the law by saying, well, the other person did it too? I don't care if it's the right or the left. Breaking the law is wrong. I agree with that. Breaking the law is wrong, whether it's a person on the left or the right. Doesn't matter. For sure, we should have answers. The American public is built on, or rather the American public is expecting the fact that the Trump administration is most certainly trying to fulfill their promise of being fully transparent, with which comes along with all these releases of the documents that we're looking to, that the public wants to know about, like 9/11, the Epstein case, and a plethora of other stuff that they're looking into. MLK, RFK, so much stuff.
Yeah, the interview with her was extraordinary. To have had a president, a leader of the free world, who was actually judged to be incompetent to testify, that he could not be a reliable witness, that he could not be a competent witness.
Matt Perez, I don't do call-ins just yet. I don't have a phone number set up so that I can have people to call in. And soon, very soon, Matt Perez, if there's any questions that you want to ask me, feel free to ask me here. I will address whatever it is that you'd like to talk about. So very soon, I will do call-ins, just trying to figure that out a little bit more thoroughly with research so that it's smooth and not me trying to figure it out on the fly on a live show.
Stand trial for lack of competency at the same time was the leader of the free world and the president of the United States. It's just extraordinary. And I think that audio coming out is so damaging to all those who, supported President Biden, went on and pampered him and kept him in power. People in the media, as well as his staff, are guilty of, if not a crime, a great disservice to the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to understand, or to know, the general public to know that the president of the United States has the cognitive abilities to be able to run a country. Because if not, that's quite concerning, with the fact that he would be on a decline. And we've seen that, showcased time and time again throughout his 4 years of being president. He's not like he was back in early on in his senator years and early on in his vice president years as under Barack Obama. You say, he's not the same when he was younger. You also mention, I'm not a Biden fan, but I do sympathize with senior age. Look, I think it would have been very merciful if they had just came out with the truth of the matter. And I think people would have understood. And then let's put the right people in place so that we could make things right and not just lie to the American public and have everybody thinking one thing as opposed to understanding the truth. We want the most transparency. and you say even by wife and friends, no heart in politics. And so, yeah, so it's quite interesting how this works out. But let's move on to the next clip. And this is something that I wanted to touch on based on some comments from yesterday with regards to the fact that Charlie Kirk is a hater or is a hate monger. There was somebody who had mentioned it in the chat yesterday, and I think this is going to be quite interesting because we're going to get an idea to his response. This is his interview on Fox News.
Men of America have been sick and tired of being told what to do from a political party that hates them.
And they also are tired of being called haters if they disagree with the left's prevailing.
Jason, by the way, you say, I don't feel sorry for him. He gave pardon to his son. The guy was involved in things. And most certainly, he pardoned his closest family members 30 minutes prior to him leaving office. 30 minutes prior. Did a whole bunch of pardons, even before the January 6th committee. Why would they need, anybody tell me in the chat, why would you need to pardon the January 6th committee? Why? What's the need for that? And then when we look at Adam Schiff making all these claims during some of the confirmations of some of Trump's cabinet, and he's just a hypocrite, hypocrite at best. A liar. Wild. You say, don't get me wrong, even if it's on the left, like Nancy Pelosi, I still call it out. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, thank God she's out.
You're a hater, you're mean, you're anti-women. And speaking of that, the Southern Poverty Law Center has now labeled, you're in the club with me, by the way, they've labeled Turning Point as a hate group.
Yes, it's
coming from a hateful group like
it's surprised it took them so long to get us on the list.
What took you so long, Charlie?
Understand that they're literally putting high school chapters of ours on a hate group next to the KKK and next to neo-Nazi groups. And I mean, we can laugh this off. There's an element to this. Remember that there was a shooter that went to the Family Research Council years ago, inspired by the SPLC list. This is them trying to make us basically surrender at Turning Point USA. We're going to do the opposite, and our students are only going to lean in even more. But they can't debate us on our ideas. They cannot have dialogue. They cannot actually go onto the merits of why they are right or why we might be wrong. Instead, they must smear us with the age-old one-liner that you are a racist or that you are a hater. And they're finally realizing the power of Turning Point USA, which is why they put us on this list.
Well, when you're effective, you're a threat, right?
That's
so they call me the high priestess of hate, right, Sam? Is that what they call me? I'm just...
Congratulations.
2008. Oh, it's old. It's so old. But again, the Democrats, I think they appeal to a certain very whiny man.
That's right.
It's at the pajama boy, whatever they're calling them.
You remember that Obamacare advertisement?
I never forgot that guy.
It was the archetype of the liberal man.
What they think a man is.
Yes, that's right. Never standing up for yourself, very feelings-based, no assertion, no drive, no grit, almost always pandering to the zeitgeist of the times, where it turns out, especially in the heartland of this country, the American man is still alive, and he wants his country back. And they showed up in record numbers for President Trump, and they're rejecting the Democrat Party.
By the way, I'm curious, where are you guys hearing that from? As far as when AI Bundy, you say, or Al Bundy, I'm not sure if that's an I or an L, uppercase I or lowercase L. Anyway, Al Bundy, I'll just keep it at that. It says why? To give the message that if you back Trump, there won't be any consequences. Joe Gaines, you say, why? Really, why? You've got Trump pledging to jail anybody who opposes him. Where in the world is that being said? I'm really curious. To say for Trump and the right to point the finger at Biden to make accusations about dishonesty, corruption, and pardoning the corrupt is just plain hypocrisy. And the pardons with regards to the January 6th committee these are American citizens who did not get any sort of trial, yet they were given the harshest type of punishment. The ones who were walking into the Capitol Rotunda where they're following the lines, taking pictures, even fixing some of the fallen items that they've seen in the hallway. And these people got solitary confinement. I mean, grandmas that were placed into jail. Grandmas. We don't mess with grandmas. We don't mess with the elderly. Unless, of course, they're super violent. Not otherwise. Why else? You know? And say, hate. What about Joy Reid? Joy Reid, man, she really just, the Al Bundy, thanks for the correction. Ajax Clean. I use your cleaning product. Appreciate it. Joy Reid gets what she deserves. Oh boy. You say you're lying. They had trials of those who didn't take a plea deal. No, they didn't have, I'm talking about the ones that he pardoned that most certainly didn't have their a fair trial. Oh boy, I just messed this up. Excuse me. All right, and then let's say it says, LOL, they didn't get a trial. Even if they fixed fallen fixtures, you're missing the point. So what is it that these people did that were absolutely bad? If they're respecting this political grounds, not doing any harm to any officers, not causing more insurrection, right? And the ones who took the plea most certainly are the ones that I hope we're all against the violence against police officers or anybody that is in authority to protect the American population. Of course, we want to be against that. You say they committed borderline insurrection and invaded the Capitol. They stormed the Capitol, of course. There was so much that happened. People sitting in the Oval Office, breaking windows. Stuff went down at January 6th, but there were the ones that didn't commit any crimes going in there when they were invited by police, escorted them into the Capitol as they were taking photos and revering the place. So how in the world do they not get a fair trial when they're the ones that are being the most peaceful about anything that went down on January 6th? Even people like Charlie Kirk, I don't know if you know, Charlie Kirk is actually somebody who was in the area, and his phone tagged that the FBI tagged his phone as being there at that time. So the FBI was attacking American citizens, putting to jail American citizens during the Biden administration, yet that's okay. People that were just in the area, the general vicinity. So if you happen to be in the marker of however so miles, you were tagged and flagged, and then now all of a sudden you're being told that you're facing jail time.
The backbone class of this country, they make the country work.
Say Charlie Kirk provided the busing for all those insurrections. I don't believe that to be true. Send me some evidence with regards to that. They say some bad apples that day, but not everyone. Yeah. There's even reports of Antifa being there, just as Antifa was there. I'm not sure if you guys seen the report. Antifa being at a Christian outreach, and they go in, they start vandalizing the place. What does that remind you of? Said Trump pardoned those who assaulted police officers. What do you think of those pardons? There must have been exactly what I'm telling you about, with the fact that they didn't get a fair trial. If nobody, this is what America's founding, the fathers, regardless of what happened. And I'm not saying I'm just being blind to all this stuff. Obviously, the assaulting of police officers, I'm completely against. Give them the sentencing, the fines, the fees, whatever they need in order to understand that their actions have consequences. There should be no excuse for any type of police officer assaultings. I'm not agreeing with any of that stuff. Let me just be clear here. What I'm saying is, if there is no fair trial, this is one of the things that I'm just saying what the president has said with regards to the fact that he didn't like the fact that these guys didn't get fair trials. And I guess he can sympathize with them because of the fact that what they did to him the last 4 years, preventing him to be running for the presidency. So you're being blind. They have video. Trump pardoned them all, and then he'd look into it after he got called out. Look, man, I already mentioned. See, Charlie Kirk is a bowel movement. That is wild. Call it what it is. Call me blind. I'm telling you, it's not okay to assault people. Whether I don't agree with all the decisions Trump is making. I may be an advocate of the fact that he's making or striving to make America great. We haven't seen a president do that in over, I don't know, how many years since Reagan. All the other corrupt presidents that we've had have driven us down to a failing economy, to where BRICS was formed to be able to remove the dollar, or rather not remove the dollar, but to outperform the dollar. And America coming to a point to where we are not the strongest country in the world, strongest nation in the world, as we used to be. We've just become a corrupt political game show. Now, who's the host?
They're largely forgotten, and the Democrats spending $20 million on video game advertisements.
Let them spend the money.
Let them burn that. By the way, if they think that's what it's actually going to take to win back young men, maybe you need a message and a messenger that they can relate to.
Well, they think their messenger might be David Hogg, I understand.
Oh, when I think of masculinity, I think of David Hogg.
Yeah, is he? What's the idea behind him? Do you think?
Again, that goes to show the Democrats probably got in a room. They said, guys, we're losing the youth. So what we need is a young vice chair of our party. Turns out, David Hogg is all over the place, talking about how he's going to primary sitting Democrats, and he went on the Breakfast Club saying that Jasmine Crockett is one of the most inspiring leaders of the Democrat Party. And if their solution to winning men is David Hogg, please continue, because you're not going to win a national election for quite some time.
Well, I think we have an interesting soundbite dovetailing from what you just said. Let's watch.
Jasmine Crockett, I love her.
Mm-hmm.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
I think that people want to see somebody who fights and calls out the ultimately. I think that's what Jasmine does, and we need a hell of a lot more people that are out there that are willing to do just that. I think Jasmine is frankly the type of leader that we're really looking to support.
There's a lot of talk about what's happening in Israel right now. Hostages being released, terrorists resurfacing.
Now, you say, for not loving all of Trump's policies, you sure seem to be loving most of Trump's policies. Look, I'm for the policies that make America great again, and make America greater as it already is. As the next few articles that I'll be showing you will be talking about some of the things that are prospering America. I mean, you as a middle class, or as a lower class, or a higher class, wouldn't you like to see yourself prosper in your own country? Or would you like to see the downfall of it? Some people would like to see the downfall of it, but how sad is that of a country that you want to see the downfall of your own country? Why is that? Share your comments. I want to read them. I really want to read them. So some of the, this is with regards to AI. I'll get to that in a moment. It's kind of wild. So it says, powerful numbers, CSNBC, Santelli praises Trump for raising personal income. The report says Americans' personal income in the first 4 months of 2025 is almost triple the expectations, making for a great start of the year. CNBC, I think I said CSNBC, Rick Santelli exclaimed on the air, urging viewers to give credit to the Trump administration. The longtime CNBC editor revealed the powerful numbers on Friday morning, sharing that the personal income increased 0.8% in April. This is a great 4-month start to any year. Then you look at income. for the first 4 months of the year, they're powerful numbers, up 0.6 in January, 0.7 in February, and 0.5 last month, up 0.8 this month. This is a great 4-month start for any year. Santelli also lauded the fact that 0.8% is the strongest income month-over-month jump since May 2021, when it was 1.9%. He went to lament how the Trump administration is criticized for just about anything under the sun, as we're seeing in this chat. Despite the president's transparency and positive accomplishments, the income numbers, really, for the first 4 months of the year, they are stellar. They are really stellar. The administration is criticized. Oh, it's just going on and repeating. But otherwise, it says here, a former fighter charged in the Capitol riot took a bus organized by Turning Point USA to D.C., filing says. Send me that article in the email. I'll take a look further, but Charlie Kirk has explained some of this. I don't think he went too public about some of the stuff because he was in the trial, but otherwise, I do believe there is a video out there that I remember seeing with the fact that he talks about this very thing. And even then, this very article that you're quoting here. Please put your references as to where you're finding this, because I'd love to also have that as a reference myself so that I can go back and we can look at, even headlines are so deceiving, but you'd have to really look at the body of the work to understand the full, again, context, as I've mentioned prior, with regards to biblical readings and understandings with biblical texts. Context is always key, because just because it has a good headline doesn't mean the body is going to tell you what the headline is saying, essentially. But otherwise, yes, criticism of Trump is the same as MAGA criticism of everything Biden. MAGA hypocrisy is limitless. The problem is Biden didn't do anything beneficial for the American economy. The type of inflation that we saw, the increases in inflation, the higher gas prices, the higher grocery bills, the limitations on our sinks, our faucets, the executive bills that Trump had to reverse, the executive bills or that were utilized to reverse some of Biden's policies. How is any of that beneficial for anybody? Honestly, do you like higher gas prices? Do you like higher groceries? I most certainly don't, because I most certainly don't get paid enough to afford the groceries because they've gotten so high and our incomes have stayed stagnant. So I would love to see my pay increase. I would love to be able to afford my groceries. Did you know that back in 2005, I think it was around 2005, as a video I showed before, but it talks about the math of that era, that time. And an average median household income was about $80,000 a year. And houses, no, I believe it was 40,000. Houses were about 80,000. The median household, or the median house price was about 80,000. The household income was about 40,000. So you're essentially making half of what your house costs. So houses today, I think the average is about 235,000 from the report that this guy had shown. And we're making maybe a quarter of that, which doesn't even cover any of the homeowners insurance and all that stuff that come along with it. So just wild. So let's take a look at the next article here. This is core inflation falls to lowest rate in 4 years. Look at that. Another win. This is quite interesting because I did want to go back to the AI subject for just a moment, because AI is getting quite out of hand. As you can see, it's a screen-in-screen, picture-in-picture of the actual footage of a man. This must be some kind of camera footage. I'm not sure if it's a webcam, but there's apps that allow you to basically, I mean, it's kind of essentially a filter. But the wild thing is that it's copying his movements. It says how happy men will be when they find out they can now be an online influencer on easy mode. Time to make some money. Say, but he wasn't cutting jobs like Trump. Now, Trump is cutting jobs, but he's cutting the jobs that are most certainly, again, this is what the whole Doge thing was implemented for. And this is why Elon Musk is stepping out, because Doge wasn't meant to be essentially permanent in the sense of Elon Musk being there permanent. The Doge efforts, the Department of Government Efficiency is from what I've heard with regards to the administration talking about the fact that they want to continue the Doge efforts because government is supposed to be efficient. We want to shrink the size of government, not increase the size of government. We don't want to bloat government because of the fact that if we have too much bloat, we have what we had in the last 4 years. People getting paid salaries that they don't deserve because they're not going into the office to do their job. The first, month it was that Kash Patel was confirmed as the FBI director. I think 3 of the top 10 most wanted in the US had been captured already. So he cut tens of thousands of jobs, given tax breaks to the rich, lied about not taxing tips or overtime. The big beautiful bill is in the works, my friend. The rich is actually going to be taxed more with this big beautiful bill. Their tax bracket is going to be increased to 39% from 37, I believe it is, 36 or 37. No tax on tips is included in the big beautiful bill. No tax on overtime is included in the big beautiful bill. The Social Security, no tax on Social Security. They're actually going to implement, or they want to implement the, a credit, $4,000 credit for Social Security. So it essentially balances out the taxes that are removed from Social Security. Say the bill says the opposite. Tell me where, man. Give me some sources so I can honestly, truthfully look them up. And hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Say the bill already mentioned the House, passed in the House. Yes, it did pass in the House. And all those items were included in there. Because now it's moving on to the Senate. Anyway. So this is that video. And the next one, we're getting into the biblical stuff. The moment you guys all been waiting for to debate me on with regards to biblical information. Let's look it up. Look, if I'm wrong, I concede. Let's just look it up. Let's do some grok research because it's just going to be that easy, that fast. All right, so let's take a look here. What was included in the big, beautiful bill that passed the House, moving to the Senate? That is not how you spell Senate. Oh boy. Why? Come on. Help me out, chat. I cannot spell Senate for the life of me. Senate. Oh boy. What is wrong with the spelling, guys? What am I getting wrong here? Tenant? Anyway, whatever. That's funny. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed by the U.S. House of Representatives on May 22nd by a narrow 215 to 214 vote, a comprehensive tax and spending package that includes several key provisions. Here we go. It says tax policy changes, extensions of 2017 Trump tax cuts that were set to expire, no tax on overtime and tips. What were you guys saying that wasn't in there? Let's go back here. Tax on tips. And we can see the source here. Let's look at the source here. This is from NBC. No, that's not it. Oh yeah, that is. Let's get the actual bill. Let's see what we got here. Section 110101, no tax on tips. Deduction allowed. Part 7 of Subchapter B of Chapter 1, as amended by the preceding provisions of this act, is amended by inserting after Section 223 the following new section: deduction for qualified tips. In general, in the case of an individual, there shall be allowed as a deduction an amount equal to the qualified tips received during the taxable year. Qualified tips for purposes of this section. Oh boy. The term qualified tips means tips received by an individual in connection with the delivering or serving of food or beverages or for consumption, but only if the providing of such tips is customary, or in connection with providing any beauty service, but only if the providing of such tips is customary. Limitations: eligible individuals, a deduction shall be allowed under subsection A only with respect to tips received in connection with providing services in an occupation included on the list published under section H by an individual who has a valid social security number and is not a highly compensated employee as defined in section 414Q. The Internal Revenue Code of 1986 currently set at $160,000 annually. Trade or business limitations: denial of double benefit. No deduction shall be allowed under Section A with respect to any tips taken into account for purposes of any other deduction or credit under this chapter. Termination: deduction allowed to non-itemizers. So what is it that you guys are saying with regards to no tax on tips? Say, as passed, the House bill would expand work requirements in SNAP on adults to the age of 65. Current work requirements phase out at 55. It would also require parents with children as young as 8 to work outside the house, turning another generation of young, poor children into latchkey kids. Let's see. Right, but the business owners pay the tip tax. So what's let's see here. Say tax exemption on tanning beds, no tax exemptions for Social Security. Get real, dude. So you're saying that no tax on tips is not included in the bill, yet there's limitations on the no tax on tips. It tells you right there. I'm reading the actual bill. This is pulled up from AI because to go through and look at Google to find the thing and then find the code. I mean, come on. We can do it's just easier to just do it on AI. Otherwise, it's just faster. So anyway, you guys are funny in that regard. So let's go ahead and take a look at see, you aren't reading the bill. What am I not reading here exactly? This is the bill. This is the bill. We can, I'm not even going to go there. Most certainly we can go to. And you say, Alamo, I wonder who directly benefits from the tax exemption on tanning beds. Yeah. Anyway, you say, maybe read us the bill, amigo. Well, I just read the bill. I'm not sure why you guys think this is not the bill. This is pulled directly from where the bill would be located, which would be in the congressional report. Here. Latest actions, updated on the 22nd. Let's see if it's going to give us. Yeah, this is going to be, let's see. Okay. No, that's a YouTube link. Come on. See what I'm saying, guys? It's going to be quite a bit of time to be able to, let's just type in tax or tips. You guys are making me do this nonsense. Here we go. I was in the wrong book. So exactly what I just read. This is what, dude, I mean, come on, guys. I am just so confused as to what you guys are trying to say is not included in the bill when it's clearly included in the bill. That is so funny. However, it's important to note that the bill is set to expire in 2028, and some critics argue that it may inadvertently encourage employees to reduce base wages to reclassify salaries as tips. That's all speculation. It's all speculation. Trump actually wants to increase our income, not decrease our income. Employers most certainly have to follow the look, even then, you don't have to work there. Go somewhere else. Somewhere else that's going to pay you what you deserve, because the worker deserves its wages. This is something that is a biblical principle, guys. Not in the bill. All right, well, I can't fight you guys on that. I guess that's that. Let's move on to the LGBTQ+IA Alphabet Mafia community is in meltdown after Pope Leo XIV says marriage is between a man and a woman. A man and a woman.
Pope Leo XIV was inaugurated with a ceremony.
Something that is actually in the Bible, if you didn't know.
In Rome over the weekend, which saw global leaders come together to mark the momentous occasion. The appointment of Pope Leo XIV sees a return to the Catholic Church's roots. The new Pope confirmed in a meeting with the Vatican diplomatic corps that the family is founded on the stable union between a man and a woman. This position is a far cry from the former Pope's blessing of LGBTQIA+ relationships, which is...
I like your question, bro. It says, what's the biblical principle of taking food from children and giving it to the wealthy so they can buy another yacht? There is no biblical principle on that. So there's that.
Sending liberal Catholics into a tailspin.
I'm a little concerned about this choice for the LGBTQ plus community. In 2012, he gave an address to bishops, and he lamented the popular culture fostered and sympathy for beliefs and practices that are at odds with the gospel, and that's a quote. And then he cited the homosexual lifestyle and alternative families comprised of same-sex partners and their adopted children. I think that Pope Francis certainly made great changes in terms of embracing the LGBTQ plus community and extending blessings to.
By the way, you say cray that RFK Jr. is like, isn't it wild that we have more cancer in the developed world while we also dismantle all environmental protections? These environmental protections are honestly a lot of garbage, because when we see what happens when man begins to worship creation. I read it through when we looked at Romans 1:25, where people will worship the creature rather than the creator. This is the, foundation to the hardcore liberals that want to put environmental restrictions over the development of human being and society. If God created the world, most certainly he can sustain the world. Obviously, we are to be here to care and tend the earth, not to cause destruction, but clearly people have other motives, and the Bible tells us what was said thousands of years ago is only true, proven itself true. They say Jesus said it's harder for rich people to enter into heaven, not impossible. Yeah. Let's see. Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 33. But seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. Amen to that one. Say, I am older LGBTQ, but etc., but not accept churches to support me. I understand that it is not their stance, but I am immigrant, legal libertarian. I only want to be safe, not accepted. Yeah. So let me see here. Make sure I'm not missing any of your other messages. And so, so with regards to the fact that you say I'm older, LGBTQ, et cetera, not accept, but I not expect churches to support me. Got it. I understand that it is not their stance, but I am an immigrant. Yeah. So, bravo to you for understanding that, because typically with this new emergence of LGBTQ, they demand that you respect them. Yet the Constitution gives us the fact that we are all to be respected because we all have equal rights as human beings, and we are to not violate those equal rights that we have. Thank you, wife. I appreciate that. I love you so much. You're so great. You're really great. She's a blessing. I have the best wife ever, and you guys have no idea. You guys wouldn't have any idea. Sorry, single men. She's mine. So guys, let's continue on with this video. Let's see what exactly is happening here, because look, I hold to the biblical stance of it's not what I feel or what I believe. This is what God's word says. If I'm going to be consistent as being a Christian, a Christ follower, I'm going to hold to what the Bible says. And so many people disagree with that. Say they want the same rights you enjoy. They had to fight for their rights because Christians denied them for so long. These are the rights that they're trying to change, which were the founding rights that were put there in the documents that we have, that marriage is between one man and one woman. They're only following the biblical standard there. So the fact that they want to go against that is going against the law of God. So if I'm going to be consistent, of course. But it's not even because Christians denied them for so long. It wasn't even Christians. These people are secular as can be, who are just fighting because they truly believe in the American the American experiment, essentially. what people like to call it. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, come on. We know that. We don't see Christians up there fighting. I mean, Trump doesn't even call himself a Christian. Even Johnson. He's a Christian, but he's not doing things on the basis of Christianity. There's a lot of things I don't agree with him on. But we don't see all these Christians, with respect to Charlie Kirk, of course, but he's not officially a person that is in government that are doing things to further the Christian agenda. We're furthering the fact that America has given everybody equal rights. Yet we need to abide by the rules that are given to us by our forefathers, the founding fathers of America. You say, false, why are you imposing your religion on people? I don't impose my religion on people. Have I told you anything that is making... tell me what I have told you, Mr. YouTube punk, that I'm imposing my religion on people. You have the right, the freedom to do and believe whatever you want to do. But if we're going to be consistent in following the law of America, we should be consistent in all of it.
The community, and I hope that this is that this Pope doesn't roll back.
Trump has said that he believes in God, but he's never called himself a Christian.
I'm going to give him, come to that in his time.
As well as being against gay marriage, Pope Leo reaffirmed the church's stance on abortion.
You say no one can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money. If you're referring to Trump, by the way, Trump would have had a higher... If Trump just said, you know what, I'm not even going to run in 2024, I'm not even going to run, his income would have been way substantial than it is now, running the businesses that he runs. He's a very successful businessman. This is proven with the businesses that he has. But the fact that he decided to not have the money for the sake of being president, for the sake of making America greater, only proves the fact that he doesn't care about the money, but cares about the American people. Has even kept fighting even after the assassination attempts. I mean, what benefit do you get from that other than getting hate? Mr. Sanchez, you say, I don't oppose my homosexuality on people. If you don't impose your views on me, we shake hands, we break bread, we praise God, more serious problems in the world. Amen to that. Amen to that. Man, I like you. You're really awesome, bro. You say the states used to have state religions. I used to have state religions. What that passage is for avoiding a Church of England. You say, is that why you force the LGBT on everyone, including little kids? Who are you referring to? Not sure.
Saying that the unborn and elderly enjoy dignity as God's creatures. Liberal online commentators blasted the Pope for his views, with this person saying, I do think it's fairly tragic that the new Pope has regressive views on gender and sexuality, but I think all the people standing the cardinals forgot that the Catholic Church is an inherently evil institution. Pope Francis was sort of a fluke, and even he was far from perfect. But other commentators pointed out that Pope Leo is merely a return to normal programming for the Catholic Church. This person said, today Pope Leo XIV reaffirmed two foundational Catholic truths. Marriage is between one man and one woman. Abortion is demonically evil. He also declared truth must be spoken even with blunt language. No ambiguity, no compromise, just clarity. And whilst Pope Leo XIV holds the conservative views of being against gay marriage and abortion, he has publicly criticised Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for their views on immigration and deportations.
Trump and MAGA are freaking out. The most powerful spiritual voice on earth just issued a direct challenge to the most powerful political voice in America. and he did it in front of more than 100 diplomats from around the globe. Pope Leo XIV condemned mass deportation that violated human dignity. He warned nations against treating migrants like disposable burdens, and without naming names, the message was unmistakable. He referred to cases like Kilmar Albrego Garcia. He also brought up Andrew Romero, a gay asylum seeker that was sent back to face abuse. Both cases happened under Trump's orders. And while President Trump celebrates deportation numbers like stock market wins, the Pope is calling this what it is.
Just because you were confirmed or baptized. I was baptized Catholic doesn't make me Catholic forever. What makes you a Christ follower is if you follow biblical principles of the things that are written therein and you are consistent in that. Trump, does he go to church? Possibly. Not now. Prior to being president in the last 4 years. Had only he considered himself feeling more connected or closer to God because of what had happened with his life being spared 3 times. But it doesn't make him a Christian just because he was confirmed at a Presbyterian church as a child. You don't necessarily need to put any type of, you would just call yourself an agnostic or an atheist. Because you say that you now consider yourself to be a non-denominational Christian, which that is actually kind of surprising to me based on the views that you have subscribed to with Justin. At least I think you hold the same sort of views. Say voices like mine do not get headlines. Yeah.
A human rights crisis. Pope Leo said we must never treat people as statistics. Every migrant has a name, a face, and a story. That was a shot across the ocean to Trump and Vance. This is the second time in a month that the Vatican has publicly challenged Trump's moral authority.
And we actually just seen the, I think this is the clip.
This was seen during J.D. Vance's meeting with the Pope for his inauguration,
Wild,
with commentators
wild,
noticing
wild.
some tension between the pair.
No, we've already went over that actually on the stream, yesterday's stream, with regards to the Bible. It wasn't written hundreds of years after Jesus. That's a fact. It's a known fact. The biblical accounts were written within at least 15 to 60 years. That is an estimate that even biblical scholars consider the timeline to be even much earlier than that. The book of Acts, the Pauline epistles, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. This stuff is, easy to find out, easy to understand. Say 40 to 7 years later, not 15. That's not true. That is not true. I read it. You missed it yesterday, man. I went over the information, bro. Yesterday we talked about this. We looked and compared, which again, I think what I'll do is I will most certainly go over the documentation that has been prepared by Dr. J. Smith with regards to the Islam and Christianity timelines as to why Islam isn't exactly what it makes it out to be. There's so much, it goes into he goes into incredible detail with regards to the language, the location of Mecca, and so much stuff that I think will really, really open your eyes. Really open your eyes.
Person said, Zelensky is a first world leader to meet Pope Leo XIV, and J.D. Vance had to stand in line to...
Marina Sanchez, you say, what exactly is Trump winning? Trump is winning. So earlier on the broadcast, thank you so much for joining me. If you guys are just joining me on this stream, we went over some stuff that Trump is winning with regards to the American economy. Income has increased. The inflation is down. And we looked at some of the other news items earlier in this podcast that we that I'm not going to re-go over, but otherwise you're just joining us where we're talking about Pope Leo after the LGBTQIA plus community is in a meltdown after Pope Leo XIV says marriage is between a man and a woman. So this is something that people are completely going against him on with regards to this. But Pope Leo isn't very consistent in some areas of the Bible. Say that's a reply. Say
talk to Pope for 15 seconds. This person agreed, saying the way Pope...
You say the first Christian churches, do you guys know that the first Christians were Jews? Or do you guys not know that? Because the disciples are Jews. Paul's a Jew. Luke's a Jew. The only one that is, actually not Luke, the only one that is not a Jew is actually Luke. Yeah, he's writing the orderly account for a man named Theophilus, which is translated, the actual name translation for Theophilus is follower of God. So we could actually see that Luke is writing to just the general believer or this man whose name is actually Theophilus. But he's writing an orderly account.
Leo XIV just shooed J.D. Vance and his wife away with a single hand gesture, telling them to move along is hilarious.
So I wanted to move on to the more haughtier topic with regards to the Bible, because yesterday we were getting a lot of pushback. I was getting a lot of pushback on certain issues of the Bible, and I think I want to take a look at what it says, and this is going to be from some of your favorite people, our favorite guys that talk about this stuff, talk about the Bible. I think this is going to be important, interesting to listen and go through. This is your favorite Mike Winger. Does this Bible verse teach? Well, this is the Q&A that he did earlier. I should have actually introduced it as if he was a guest. But anyway, he's not a guest on the show. It'd be great to have him on the show one day, live show, take questions and just go from there. That'd be awesome. But Mike Winger, everybody, let's see what kind of bomb he's got to drop here with regards to what was God doing before Genesis.
Anonymous question: where was God before Genesis 1? If space, matter, and time was created, what was before it?
By the way, your reply to Mr. Sanchez says both parties suck, but only one wants to take away your rights. What party is that? What party is that exactly? Is it the right? Is it the left? Is it the Green Party? Independent Party? So Mike is a pastor, right? He's not a biblical scholar. Mike is a pastor, and even though he's not a biblical scholar, meaning having any type of, well, maybe he does, I actually don't know. But even then, you don't need biblical scholarship in order to talk about anything with regards to the Bible. You can study this stuff on your own, essentially. But if we really wanted to look at any type of biblical scholar, what we were looking at yesterday, Wes Huff is a fantastic linguistic scholar. Linguistics and historical, he's not an archaeologist, but he looks at the language of the New Testament, specializes in the New Testament, and goes through all of that.
Heaven and the angels already existed, so where was the nothing where God created everything in Genesis 1? All right, let's go to Genesis 1. Interesting question here. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void. Now, I take this first verse of Genesis 1, my understanding of it, my interpretation of it is that this is God creating not only the sky and the stars, but the spiritual realm of heaven as well, where angels dwell and things like that. that was all created by God in the beginning. So then question you'd have then, that kind of answers one of your questions. Like you said, heaven and the angels already existed. Actually, we don't know that heaven and the angels already existed. It looks like heaven was created. And we know in the New Testament that heaven can be recreated. That heaven itself will be even recreated. In Revelation, we read about this, that when the earth is, everything's going to be burned up. And is it 2 Peter or 1 Peter? I think maybe 2nd. First? I think it's 1st. Anyway, he says that all of those things will be burned up and then recreated. That heavens, the earth, all of the above have been created and will be remade into a perfect place full of righteousness. So, yeah, the angels, where were they? We don't really know. There's very little details about the creation of angels. So probably the best clue we have that I'm aware of is in the book of Job. Job talks about when God created a number of other things he made during the 7 days of creation in Genesis 1. When he did those things, the angels were rejoicing. The end of Job talks about this. God's questioning Job, and he talks about it.
By the way, you say that 1st and 2nd Peter are forgeries. Why do you think that? What makes them forgeries, and who did this study? Because they're not forgeries.
And he says that they were the sons of God were delighting in the works of God. This implies that angels were made at some point early on.
By the way, you see, you really want to be a religious person, you need to study more religions than just one and its subgroups. Living Religions, highly recommend. This is the 5th edition. Highly recommend this book by Mary Pat Fisher. Goes through, Hinduism, all the isms really, Judaism, Christianity, ism. That was a joke. Islam, Sikhism, new religious movements, goes through all of those. I mean, this is very extensive. Religion in the 21st century. Maybe we should go through and see exactly if some of the claims you guys are making here with regards to, I don't know. Somebody said, where was it? How could the Bible be true when it's only a few thousand years old and you have places like China whose history goes back 10,000 plus years? Now, the documents that we have of the oldest book is Job, first of all. And the dating, I have to look back into that. I'm not sure if the dating is unknown, but the dating is this is the oldest book that we have. And so even with regards to the history of China being going back 10,000 plus years, if this is true, right, this claim that you're making, if this is true, we have actual documentation of these civilizations. China is an old, not culture, but people group. They're really an old civilization. They're one of the oldest civilizations. But Sumeria, as we went over yesterday, I think it's Sumeria, right? Sumeria. No, not Sumeria. It was somebody mentioned Mesopotamians, but it's the Sumerians. It's either Sumerians or sounds similar to Sumerians. They are the oldest civilization that we have documented. And we went over the Tower of Babel and all that stuff and what God did during the languages. But otherwise, let's see. Let's see what this says here with regards to the encounter between science and religion. Let's see what that talks about. Maybe you guys might be interested in that. (32) Say, abolitionists and liberal interpretations Within each faith, people often have different ways of interpreting their traditions. The Orthodox stand by historical form of their religion. They try to be strict followers of its established practices, laws, and creeds. Those who try to resist contemporary influences and affirm what they perceive as the historical core of their religion could be called abolitionists. In our times, many people feel that their distinctive identity as individuals or as members of an established group is threatened by the sweeping social changes brought by modern industrial culture, the breakup of family relationships, loss of geographic rootedness, decay of clear behavioral codes, and loss of local control may be unsettling. To find stable footing, some people may try to stand on select religious doctrines or practices from the past. Religious leaders may encounter this trend towards rigidity, my bad, by declaring themselves absolute authorities or by telling the people that their scriptures are literally and exclusively true. They may encounter antipathy. Oh boy, my pronunciation at this hour. Or even violence against people of other religious traditions. The term fundamentalism is often applied to this selective instance on parts of religious tradition and to violence against people of other religions. This goes into great detail on all this stuff. It really is. Divisions among abolitionists, liberals, and skeptical interpretations of religion are related to the development of modern science like religion. Science is also engaged in searching for universal principles that explain the facts of nature, and two approaches have influenced each other since ancient times. When they were not seen as separate endeavors, in both East and West, they were continual attempts to understand reality as a whole. That's actually a great point to bring out to Justin, your buddy Justin, because yeah, I think we need to do some correcting in that man.
Maybe, conjecture, hypothetically, when God creates the heavens and the earth, right then at that moment, at the very beginning, because the earth's without form and void, the earth already exists on day one. Right? He's already created it, and then there it is. He's shaping it and forming it more on day one. But the space, and the angels themselves, and the eternal realm of heaven, or I don't know if I should call it eternal, the spiritual realm of heaven, that seems like it already existed by the time that God was saying, like, let there be an expanse, and let the earth bring forth this and that. So then there's the question of this. Then what was before God created? And here's where it's a wibbly wobbly, timey wimey kind of question. Okay, you guys, some of you know. And this question is like, how do you talk about time before time? When God created the heavens and the earth, was that the first moment, or were there moments before that? And I'm inclined to think it was the first moment.
You say science shows Earth did not exist on day one. The problem is science has always shifted its understanding as to how humans became to be existed in the first place, how the universe became into existence in the first place. There's actually a clip that I think would be beneficial for you to see with regards to something that just somebody like Joe Rogan talks about with regards to the Big Bang Theory. That anyway, I think it'll be beneficial for you to see the clip, because otherwise, let's see here. Let's see if I can find it for you, and I'll pull it up. I'll keep playing this.
That the first time a clock could tick, the first second was boom, God creates and time starts moving. Now, before that, does that mean that God is frozen? I don't think we should view God's timelessness as God being frozen. I think that I like the word transcendent better. So God transcends time. He exists eternally. He exists unceasingly. And the moment he does a thing, he's creating space and time itself. That is my understanding of things. I would not divide over other brothers and sisters on this, but you're asking like, hey, how would you answer the question, where was God before Genesis 1? So if you were to take away space and you were to take away time, the only thing that could exist would have to be something that is spaceless and timeless. Now, when I say it's spaceless and timeless, that's kind of like weird descriptors because I'm saying without space and without time. Okay. How about I put it this way? The only thing that could exist is something that could exist that didn't require time and didn't require space for its existence. God didn't inhabit a space, he just was. When he made finite beings and finite things, he created space for them to inhabit because they are not transcendent beings. He creates time for them to operate in because they are not eternal beings. So God is, when you think about this, this means God is in concept so far different than me and you. He is so other. Just like his holiness is so far higher than my best moment, my holiest moment in my life. His goodness is, not only is he good, he is the grounding of good. Goodness flows forth from his very nature. That's what good is. It's just a reflection of God's very nature. When I see power, I've only ever seen or possessed limited power, but God himself just is power. Any power that exists ultimately comes from him. Any authority that exists comes from him. And so he's transcendent beyond time and space. So I wouldn't speak of God as being before the Big Bang chronologically, or I said the Big Bang, or whether you affirm that or not, I don't care. Before the creation of the universe chronologically, that's what I really meant to say. When I say that, I do not mean chronologically. Sorry, I'm just confusing myself with my words. Let me start again. When I say that God is before the universe, before the creation of the universe, I do not mean chronologically before. I mean he exists eternally apart from the universe. And when the universe does not exist, God is existing. How do I describe that in like chronological language? It's difficult. But
so just because Joe Rogan is not a physicist or a cosmologist, I mean, you just need some general common sense to understand this stuff. It's really not that hard. It really isn't. Because once you actually think for yourself and think through these things, you really understand that the idea that the universe started from nothing is pretty wild. Let's see. Here we are.
We see so far, but even so far is only so far.
Well, and then they're saying like it's always expanding, which that can't be true because like what is it expanding into? If space is space, you know, if they're like, oh, it's like blowing up a balloon.
Wait. You're saying what's more wild, starting from nothing, or a guy in the desert came back to life 3 days later and ascending into heaven? Dude, the more wilder thing is that nothing came from nothing, or something came from nothing. There is no way something can come from nothing. Scientifically, that can't happen. Science, for somebody to create something, you have to already use pre-existing things to be able to create something. Something can't come from nothing, dude. That is wild.
where everything's okay, but you're blowing up a balloon in a room.
Right.
So what's the room that you're blowing the balloon into? And then that's in a bigger room, and then that's in this.
And then there's the concept that it's actually finite. It's not infinite, and it's some sort of donut shape. It goes back around eventually.
But then who made all that?
Right.
Like, is there a God? Did God make this?
Or is God the universe?
Yeah, but then who made God? And then that bothers me.
Right, but
like, who made that thing?
Is that a thing that we think that, like, because we were born and we die, that we have these biological limitations that we attach to the universe itself?
That's fair. That we see things as being built and destroyed.
That there's always been something. Well, wouldn't it be crazy if there wasn't?
So you say you believe the validity of events from the Bible because it says so in the Bible, because these are historical documents of what was happening in the history during the time of Jesus Christ. Well, Christ is not his last name. I say it as if it's his last name. He's just that's his title, the Messiah of Jesus of Nazareth, a man who actually lived during the time that he did, during the reign of certain emperors and kings, or Roman emperors, and people of high power in the Jewish world that were in control of that sort of, or under the Roman occupation. This is all historically documented. So I really don't understand why you think this is all like fantasy. Those aren't your words. Somebody else said that in the chat, that this is all fantasy. Yet we have the documents that are written. So it basically saying the same thing about George Washington. He was much sooner than we have of what was written about Jesus, or anything with regards to the Old Testament. So how can we prove Washington was true? George Washington, first president. How can we say that the Declaration of Independence is real? Well, because we have the historical documents to prove it so. I mean, is that none of that is it, where is it documented? Bro, it's documented. This is why we have so much, and this all goes back to people talking about that the that the Bible is translations of translations of translations of No, we have copies of what was written since the very beginning of this gospel message that Christians wanted to really put out there. Jesus said to spread the gospel, baptize people in the name of Jesus, or rather of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And he commissions them to do so. So what did Christians do? They go on writing the things that they heard, the things that they seen, the things that were done. And this was transmitted, not like the telephone game. We've already discussed that, because the accuracy with having so much copies tells us what the original said. Think about it.
Something at one point in time, that seems even crazier than there always has been something. Because if it's just the nature of everything, there is always something, right?
Right.
It couldn't be nothing and then all of a sudden everything. That seems,
because what started that? What kicked that off?
Exactly.
What snapped its fingers? Like
that's McKenna's great line. Terrence McKenna had a great line about the difference between science and religion. Is that science only asks you for one miracle. I want you to believe in one miracle, the Big Bang.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
It's because it really is true.
Yes.
And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason that anybody's adequately explained to me. It makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Instantaneously became everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't buy that.
I'm sticking with Jesus.
Yeah.
So if we had copies of copies are important, because if we have the If somebody has the original, you can change the original. And then now what are we supposed to do with copies? We say, okay, well, what is actually being said here? Somebody can alter the original. Somebody can fabricate whatever it is. Not fabricate the original, but somebody can most certainly claim they have the original. They can age up the paper. They can have use ancient papyri and create an original and say this is the original. And yet it's completely different from what we have of all the copies. So what are we going to believe? We're going to believe the original. We're going to believe the copies. What are we going to do? If you have the original, you can most certainly change the original. So I just find that to be wild. Say in newer copies, there are stories not found in the older copies. Look, Westhoff went over this pretty extensively in some of his teachings that he's done, or what do you call them? Not seminars, but the what's the word? Anyway, some of the lectures that he's done in front of churches or wherever, he talks about this very fact of what you say here. Newer copies. In newer copies, we have stories not found in the older copies. Like there's instances of the woman at the well. This is what's known as a floating passage, where authors didn't know where to stick this, and so they left it in. Because why not leave something in rather than take it out, actually? So we have more of the Bible. We don't have less of the Bible. We have more. It's he referenced the fact that we have like a big puzzle piece. We have 90,000 pieces, right? Or we have 110,000 pieces. And the puzzle piece is actually, I don't know, 100,000 pieces. I forget this is the analogy somewhat of what he said. Talks about the fact that we have more of what we have to fit the actual puzzle piece together. And the more is a good thing, because we can, some of these people that when they include some of the stuff in the Bible, they want to be safe. Of course, if this is God's word, we want to make sure that we take care of God's word, revere his word, and try to not mess up the word that God is trying to transmit to us through these people that were operating under the Holy Spirit, which God still uses people today. So whether you guys believe that or not, I think you guys should honestly and earnestly seek the truth of the biblical documentation that we have, because we just have to look at the facts and come to a realization that God is real, God is true, and his word is true. You say, if we don't have original copies, how do we know what the word was? And why didn't Jesus write his own gospel? Jesus wasn't there to write gospels. He was there to correct man's tradition on their understanding of the law in the first place. That is what he came to do. He came to fulfill the law and the prophets. That was his mission, not to write gospel accounts. The gospel accounts are documentations of what Christ's ministry would be on, what the Messiah's ministry would be during his time on earth. That he temporarily gave up his glory in heaven in order to save you. So his mission was to fulfill the law and the prophets so that he can be our representative, because Adam, our first representative, failed to do so. And so after Adam, we are each born in the manner of sin. Of course he can write his own message if he wanted to. But people did that for him. Matthew, Peter, John. Jesus had a greater mission than to sit down and write the things that he wanted to write. The importance was his words and the actions of what he was saying. What constitutes an eyewitness account for you? We can say that about a lot of things and just blatantly say this is not eyewitness accounts. How is that not an eyewitness? What is an eyewitness account? Somebody who's witnessing something going down. How is that not an eyewitness account? I don't understand your point here, or what you're trying to say there, because clearly it's eyewitness. So you want a gospel written decades later versus a gospel written by Jesus himself. Again, we already went over that. It's not decades later. This is people that that knew him, that directly knew him, or direct disciples of him, and written within 15, well, I guess, yeah, 15 with 10, yeah. I get what you're saying, decades later. Of course, these documents being published decades later, as your claim is, I mean, think about that. Thoroughly researched, gathering all the document. Guys, by the way, writing this stuff and compiling these documents was extremely expensive to do in those days. Not something that you can easily obtain papyri, let alone people to be able to write linguistically, efficiently, effectively. This is not common in those days. Greek heavily spoken amongst the Jews. Hebrew Greek because of Roman occupation. So Dale Allison and many scholars place mark around 66 to 70 AD. We can easily do an AI search, but otherwise I'm not going to do that, because I think you guys need to go back and really understand the truth of the matter of these historical documentations and when they were compiled, when they were written. None of these have anything to do with the fact that this information didn't happen, or these types of things didn't happen. So, otherwise, guys, thanks for being on this stream today. Seems like many of you are already leaving. And we'll continue this conversation another time when it is not so late. And we'll go ahead, and I'm like dead tired. If you guys want to come to church tomorrow. I'll be there. And don't be square. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for being here on this Equally Yoked podcast. If you guys like what you heard, if you guys like what you saw, please subscribe. And like one of the other guys in here, I think his name was Michael or Matthew or Mike. He's waiting for the call-ins. I do want to start doing call-ins here. And most certainly, I don't have 4 hours to spend talking with somebody. I have a life, man. I have a life. I have a wife and kids. I go to church, I work. And this is kind of like this sort of side chick. I guess you could say. Terrible thing to say, but otherwise, you guys are awesome for being here. And the streaming stuff, all this stuff is done on the side. So the type of preparation I have is very little time to go over these things and to bring this stuff to you guys. And I will most certainly research the things that, of course, I know you didn't say that I had to spend 4 hours talking with somebody, of course, but I want to build this own channel so that we can have a good community of people that talk and debate, share views, and maybe change people's minds. Because ultimately, that's what we're given the freedom to do so. And I want that to be a platform where we can have healthy debates and we don't have all these trolls in the chat. More the spamming trolls. I'm not saying the trolls that are saying other things. I welcome some of that stuff, but the stuff that is just, wild. Romina, thanks so much for being here. I know you just got here, but otherwise, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much, YouTube Punk. Man, you're great. Thanks for being the first person. You're going to be, I hope you stick around, man. You're awesome. You're awesome. Guys, I really appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Get some rest. It's late. The hour is late. This is why I call this the late hour. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.